The last echo of Earth, they called it World. The official name was 09, but the galaxy had long stopped using that. It was just a ruin now. Dead rock, burned atmosphere, black veins of melted cities, buried under layers of fallout, and silence. A monument to what happens when you challenge the conglomerate and lose. Once, long ago, this had been Earth. Now, it was a warning at least. That's what they thought. Until something screamed 12,000 years after Earth was glassed. Colonial Survey Team Theta 5 landed on it for a high-value reclamation sweep. Commander Helrix of the Zelenary Dominion led the team. He had the body of a mantis wrapped in armor and the eyes of a bureaucrat. 1,000 systems under his belt, 1,000 victories. He'd heard the rumors. Earth was cursed. He believed in facts, and facts said Earth held remnants of pre-extinction tech that could make their war engines faster, smarter, deadlier, maybe even human-grade. That made it worth the risk. He sent in drones first. The surface was cold. Winds carried ash across hollow skyscrapers that looked more like ancient bones than buildings. Satellite arrays still turned in the wind like severed limbs. Radiation, minimal. Power signatures, non-existent. Threats, zero. It was, as the report said, a corpse planet. But 3 days later, one of the dig drones picked up a signal, buried deep under the ruins of a mountain-sized city, once called New London. Encrypted, faint, but undeniably human. Blinked all 4 eyes. No way. The extinction campaign had been thorough. Too thorough. But the signal repeated, low-frequency pulses. Measured, rhythmic. Almost like breathing. They broke through the strata with plasma drills. It took hours to punch through layers of metal, dirt, wreckage, and something fused into crystal by heat, unlike any known weapon. But beneath it, they found a vault. Still sealed. Metal unlike anything in their databases. On the door, a barely legible etching. Shelter 0. Humanity endures. The team froze. Helrix ordered every recorder activated. Then they opened it. The first thing that hit them wasn't movement. It was sound. A low rising hum that vibrated their chests. It wasn't coming from machines. It wasn't artificial. It was alive. The walls were lined with tubes, dozens, maybe hundreds each, holding a still, shadowed figure, tall, silent, human, but not like the ones from the archives. These were armored, engineered, muscles braided with metal, runes carved into their bones. One by one, their eyes opened, and the screaming began. Not from them. From the ground, sensors fried, communications cut, and across the ruined crust of Earth, old machines woke up. Machines no one knew existed, weapons never catalogued, buried defense nodes hidden inside the planet's mantle itself. The conglomerate had bombed Earth from orbit, melted it with planetary-scale fusion, but these things weren't on the surface. They'd been waiting. One scout saw at first a hill. That wasn't a hill rising on 6 legs. Each footstep cracked tectonic plates. Buried artillery turned toward the stars. Old satellites, long thought dead, flared with energy. Earth itself was screaming. And all at once, the Dominion realized they hadn't won. They'd only been ignored. Commander Helrix tried to retreat. His gunships lifted off, heading back toward orbit. Then one vanished mid-flight, swallowed whole by a tower of screaming metal erupting from the Earth like a spear. It wasn't natural. It wasn't designed. It was angry in orbit. Zelenary Command watched in silence. Their feeds went dark one by one as the entire planet came alive in flame and fury. One whispered in dread. They were extinct. Another corrected him. No, they were sleeping. Hours later, the Conglomerate High Council received a single message. Simple, raw, unencrypted. You silenced our voice, so we made the planet scream. Humanity lives, Earth remembers, and we are awake. The Council declared Code Helix Black, extinction level contact. Too late. Across the stars, Other silent colonies flickered to life, vaults opening, systems activating, and everywhere, on every buried world the conglomerate had conquered, something began to stir beneath the ground. Not vengeance, memory. The vault sleepers awakened. They weren't supposed to feel pain, not anymore. That's what the bioarchitects promised, that after 1,000 years in neural stasis, the transition to consciousness would be seamless. No trauma, no confusion, no agony. They lied. When Lieutenant Alex Rains opened his eyes for the first time in 1,400 years, it felt like his mind had been shattered and melted, and rebuilt in the shape of a scream. And he wasn't alone. The stasis vault was a hive of steel, breathing vents, chattering AI whispers like ghosts in his skull. The emergency protocols had been tripped, which meant one thing: humanity had been touched. Rains ripped free from the memory fluid that held him and fell onto the cold floor, coughing, retching, claws of panic slicing through his thoughts. It took full minutes before he could crawl toward the console, even longer before he remembered his name, and when he accessed the vault's external sensor feed, all he could do was stare. Outside, Earth was burning, but not like it had before. This time, she was fighting back. Across the chamber, dozens more emerged from stasis tanks. Men, women, non-binary Marines, scientists, engineers, all enhanced, all designed for one task: survive extinction, then make the enemy regret leaving you alive. Every one of them had volunteered before the sky cracked, and the orbital glassing began. They'd watched the end come through their own eyes, and then they slept, while the Earth buried them like seeds. Vault Zero's AI flickered into full sentience. Mother Core, a sapient construct that had waited too long with no mouth to scream. Her voice, calm but laced with static, filled the air. Welcome back. Earth is under hostile reclamation. External threat confirmed. Zelenary Dominion Extraction Unit. Tactical response. Burn and broadcast. The galaxy must remember. Alex stood, body still aching from cellular regeneration. He looked around. The chamber. 37 others stood with him. That was all. No, there were more. But this vault had been the first seated, the most complete, and now it was awake. Mother, he croaked. Run Reaper, Protocol 1. Confirmed, she said. Authorizing planetary defense layers. Initiating biological reactivation. Connecting to the grave choir. He frowned. Wait, you're bringing them online already? Earth is screaming, Lieutenant. They should scream back. Above, the alien survey ship still circled, unaware that the ground beneath it was more than just soil. It was a living weapon. The crust cracked in a ripple as seismic railgates extended, unfurling like ancient petals. Missiles grown from reactive ironbud cores sprouted and locked onto the orbiting vessel. The first shot didn't fire plasma. It launched a packet one that hijacked every sensor and display in the alien ship, and in their language, burned into their walls. We're not extinct. We're reloading. A second later, the ship disappeared in a burst of light. Underground, Rains led his team through the vault's upper passageways. They were heading toward the old tram system. If it still worked, it could get them to the other dormant shelters faster than foot traversal. Along the tunnel walls were murals, ancient human art, painted before the fall, photos of cities, long gone, poems carved into steel, and in some places, skeletons in armor. They hadn't made it to the vaults in time. Rains stopped at one set of remains. The soldier had died facing outward, rifle raised, body half fused to the entrance bulkhead. A last stand. He saluted silently. "Did we win?" asked a voice behind him. Rains didn't look back. "We're still breathing. That's more than we were ever promised." On the far side of the planet, Vault 12 ignited. It hadn't just held sleepers. It had stored Echo Beast's biosynthetic constructs, engineered with the emotions of entire bloodlines. Creatures that didn't just fight, they remembered. across deserts of ash and frozen oceans. They rose, one by one, some shaped like dragons, made of steel and bone, others like wolves the size of freighters, all bonded to human combat psyches. They howled, the sky cracked, and Earth listened. Then it screamed again. Meanwhile, news of Earth's awakening rippled across the stars. The Zelenary command flagged Earth as a classy threat and salvageable, but they couldn't stop the feed from going viral on the Conglomerate net. Every faction, every power, every petty warlord and empire saw the flickering footage of Vault Zero opening and the old flag still flying, and they all asked the same question: what if more are alive? Some wanted to flee, others wanted to conquer, and a few remembered what humans had once done to the First Empire, and trembled back in the vault. Mother Core brought online the final layer, the memory choir. Dozens of preserved minds were heroes, engineers, artists, tacticians compressed into sentient code and broadcast into Earth's crust. They didn't just guide weapons, they were the weapons. Alex watched as fusion forges pulsed, automated exosuits constructed themselves. Giant walkers dug themselves out of graves made of scrap and memory. A second voice joined Mother's. Earth is awake. We are many. We are angry. And we remember everything. They moved, not just Vault Zero. All across Earth, old shelters stirred. Subterranean cities uncoiled. AI awakenings cascaded through the crust like neural fire. Humanity wasn't gone. They were just ... beneath. And now, as one voice, they began to rise. The silence between stars, no transmission, had ever caused such chaos in the Conglomerate's 1,000-year history. Not even the First War. It wasn't just the message: we're not extinct, we're reloading. It was where it came from, a planet that had been reduced to molten slag, a species whose extinction had been celebrated with parades across 100 star systems, a species that had once clawed through the stars, using tech barely out of infancy, and still nearly brought the galaxy to its knees. Humanity had vanished, and that had been comfortable now. Earth wasn't just back on the map, it was screaming, and the echoes were starting to reach even the quietest corners of the universe. The Zelenary Dominion was the first to panic. Commander Halrix had failed. His last message was garbled, static, and a final glimpse of something too large to be a machine, and too fast to be nature. The Council ordered all vessels within 5 parsecs to retreat from the Sol system immediately. It didn't help. One by one, probes, scouts, and automated research stations went dark, not destroyed, just silenced, as if Earth had swallowed their signals, their data, even their very presence. Some called it a blackout. Others whispered a different word: extinction field, because everything that touched Earth disappeared into silence. But it wasn't silence. Inside the vaults, Lieutenant Alex Rains stood inside the old communications chamber beneath Vault Zero, staring at the holographic feed of space traffic. Mother Core rotated projected data on her volumetric display. The entire outer ring of Earth's orbit was saturated with debris. Some of it was moving. "What am I looking at?" Rains asked. "Old friends," Mother replied, "and old enemies." The feed zoomed in, faint signals. Too faint for alien sensors, but human tech had always known how to listen between the lines. Hidden ships, buried beacons, and worst human black ops satellites that had survived glassing, survived abandonment, and had been watching, waiting. "We never shut them down," Rains muttered. "We weren't supposed to." Mother's tone carried a rare emotion. Pride. "You left them eyes. I gave them teeth." Elsewhere on Earth, Vault 6's gates burst open, an avalanche of ash and steel, heralding the arrival of the Iron Choir, a unit of soldier poets designed to fight with both blade and message. They didn't speak, they broadcast. Every movement, every step, echoed through old frequencies, rattling the airwaves with ancient verses encoded into quantum particles. One drone, still transmitting from orbit, caught a single phrase before its feed collapsed. "You took our skies. We took your shadows." Far across the galaxy, in a station orbiting the pleasure world of Delvarin, an old human relic flickered to life. No one knew it was there. It had been hidden beneath the sublier of the orbital ring, disguised as defunct maintenance tech. When the Earth's signal hit it, it activated and whispered into the system's relay. "Signal confirmed. Project Afterfall, green." Then it exploded on purpose, taking out for alien dreadnoughts that had been docked nearby. Humanity was not just waking up, it had planted its nightmares. Alex Rains stepped into the VR battlefield chamber inside Vault Zero. It had been designed to train soldiers by simulating real-world threats. Now it was being used for something else. Contact preparation. The other awakened vaults were sending representatives. Vault 9 had re-established communications via underground drone relay. Vault 15, located in Antarctica, had gone silent after reactivation, but sent one final ping. "We remember what they did." Rains stood before the projector as 5 other officers appeared in shimmering blue. Men, women, one holographic canine with cybernetic eyes, the mascot of Vault 4's Recon Division. "Command," Rains said. "Earth is awake. Now what?" General Vera Song, from Vault 9, answered. Now we finish what they started. We don't rebuild. We don't beg." She leaned forward. Her eyes burned with something older than revenge. "Memory. We remind the galaxy why they were afraid of us." From the lunar surface, forgotten bunkers stirred, one by one. Lights flickered on. A giant mechanical being, humanoid, armor-plated, 20 meters tall, emerged from a hangar carved into the moon's core. Its faceplate bore the words, "Civilization is a lie. Evolution is war." Inside, a human pilot opened his eyes for the first time in 1,000 years, and smiled. All across Earth, atmospheric sensors registered changes that couldn't be explained. The winds were too precise, the temperatures too even. The weather systems were being controlled. Vault 13 had reactivated Project Gaia, override a planetary climate control network designed to keep surface operations stable. But now, it did more than stabilize it. Hid Earth from orbital scans. The Conglomerate couldn't see it anymore. Only a blank sphere, no radiation, no heat, no signal, just a quiet planet floating in space, and that, somehow, was worse than fire. The Conglomerate held an emergency war council. The decision was unanimous. Earth must be destroyed. For real this time. No mercy, no delay, no observation. They would use plant-class annihilation weapons devices, capable of erasing entire solar systems. But as they prepared to fire, every single targeting relay failed. The words echoed across their starship's displays, in every language. "Nice try. Your mistake wasn't killing us. It was leaving us time." Back in Vault Zero, Rains activated the external loudspeaker system, the old planetary broadcast array. He looked into the camera, into the void, and spoke not to Earth, but to everything watching from beyond. "We begged for peace once." He stepped forward. "You taught us silence." He pointed skyward, toward where the Conglomerate fleets were gathering. "Now, it's your turn to listen." The ones who stayed buried the Earth. Wasn't just alive, it was evolving. The Conglomerate called it an anomaly. The humans called it home. And the ones who never left were about to remind the galaxy why Earth was the last planet you ever wanted to wake up. Underneath the Himalayan mountains, buried deeper than even Vault Zero, was a facility so secret. Not even Earth's wartime governments knew everything about it. Project Bastion, the place where the most dangerous experiment ever conceived, was hidden behind 12 layers of obsidian-coated titanium and encrypted with neural DNA-locks. It wasn't a weapon, not entirely, It was a last contingency, and someone had just opened the door. Lieutenant Alex Rains stood on a maglev tram with 4 other awakened operatives. Beside him sat Mara Lynn, former tactical director of Vault 9. She hadn't said a word since the tram left. Vault 0. Not because she was afraid, because she remembered what Bastion was. I thought it was a myth, she said finally. It was meant to be, Alex replied, until now. He looked out the viewport as the tram blurred through darkness at hypersonic speed. We opened the first gates. Mara, Earth screamed. Now, the ones who've been listening for centuries are screaming back. Bastion wasn't just a vault. It was a wound. A scar on the world from the first invasion. When the orbital bombardments came, Earth's defense AI calculated a survival probability below 0.001%, so it made a choice no government authorized. It gathered the most violent, unstable, brilliant, war-scarred humans it could find and locked them in, not in stasis, in war, simulations, unending, years in their minds, centuries in real time, fighting over and over until there was no peace left in them. Then it waited. The tram stopped. Mara and Alex stepped into a silence so heavy it felt alive. The doors to Bastion stood a head taller than any cathedral, carved with human faces, some in agony, others in grim determination. A blood-red scanner flicked across their bodies. Genetic markers confirmed. Rains, Lynn, Level 1, access granted. The doors opened. Inside, nothing moved until the lights activated and they saw them. There were hundreds, soldiers in black armor that shimmered like void steel, faces blank, eyes glowing faint blue from neural link implants. Not one of them spoke until one stepped forward. Lieutenant. Alex blinked. You know me. We were programmed to. You were our signal. Mara took a step back. You're not stasis survivors. No, the soldier said calmly. We are what stasis was meant to protect the world from. He took off his helmet. His face was human, but his skin was etched with circuit tattoos, his pupils micro-spinning like hard drives. We call ourselves the Buried. On the surface, the Conglomerate's fleet reached the edge of Sol. Thousands of ships, capital weapons online. Shields charged, orders clear, glass the planet again, then sterilize the remains. A standard annihilation run. But the moment they entered, the system, their nav computers, began glitching. Stars in the wrong place. Time distortion. Weapons offline. Orders scrambled because Earth wasn't just a planet anymore. It was a machine, and it had been upgraded. The Grave Choir. AI warthought clusters connected through Earth's crust activated a signal no alien tech could trace. It pulsed once through the system. Every comet, every derelict station, every asteroid humanity had ever touched, exploded. The debris shredded half the forward fleet. Not because of firepower, because they had been waiting, hiding in the silence between stars. Back in Bastion, Rain stood in front of a control panel. A single red button, one push, and the Buried would be released onto the surface. He hesitated. They've been fighting simulations for 1,000 years. They're not stable. They're not meant to be, Mara said. They're the last scream. Alex turned to the soldier beside him. Why are you so calm? We're not calm, he said softly. We're ready. Across Earth, the last vaults cracked open. Vault 12 released the BioArc's giant machines that grew weapons, soldiers, food, and infrastructure simultaneously. Vault 4 activated the Voice Walkers, humans trained to infiltrate alien minds via quantum psionics, and, in the Pacific, from beneath the Mariana Trench, a ship rose. It was larger than anything Earth had ever built, coated in black gravitic plating, armed with planetary disruption beams. The ship's name flared across every com in the system. Remember us. On the Conglomerate flagship, General Harka of the Threxian Horde watched the system unravel. No planet could survive this, he whispered. An aide answered, voice shaking. It's not a planet anymore, sir. It's a weapon. The buried marched out of Bastion, into the ashed winds, into the light, onto a world finally ready for them again. They didn't cheer, they didn't speak, they simply moved. Silent shadows of vengeance and memory, and as they did, Earth pulsed one more time. A sound that was not music, not language, just a single, final warning, a planetary heartbeat, one that echoed across every sensor in the fleet. Boom, boom, boom. What sleeps beneath the stars, for centuries? They believed Earth was a tomb, not a battlefield, not a fortress. A tomb, a forgotten ball of ash where the last humans died screaming beneath orbital fire. But now, they realized their mistake, not because Earth woke up, but because Earth remembered. The Conglomerate's war fleet stood motionless at the edge of Sol, frozen in place by systems that no longer obeyed. Something someone had hijacked their command layers. Every time they tried to override it, the ships displayed a single message. You've reached the human subconscious. Please leave a message after the trauma. Then every screen bled red, and the fleet's own targeting systems turned inward. In the heart of Earth's reborn defense network, the grave choir sang, not with voices, but with memory. Streams of emotion, pain, rage, laughter, hope, everything humanity had ever felt woven into psionic harmonics. They didn't just jam the alien systems. They overwhelmed them with being human. Ships designed to process logic and tactic couldn't handle raw experience. One Threxian battlecruiser melted its own AI core after receiving a compressed pulse of a child crying over a dog's grave. Another turned its guns on its sister ship after receiving memories of trench warfare on Europa. In Vault 0. Lieutenant Alex Raines stood on the control deck of the Remember Us, Earth's last ARC ship turned war-engine. It hovered above Earth like a shadow, larger than any vessel in the Conglomerate's fleet. He stared at the enemy ships hanging in silence. They don't know what to do, said Marilyn, standing beside him. They're used to winning. They're used to war, Raines corrected. This isn't war anymore. He turned to the crew. It's vengeance. The buried reached the surface. Every step they took reactivated old Earth tech drones, weather controllers, magnetic launchers. They didn't speak. They simply unfolded. Each soldier carried within them dozens of combat programs, reality-bending nanocode that turned thought into matter. Where they pointed, terrain changed, weapons formed, and from behind them, the vaults released the last phase of Earth's counterattack. The archive swarm, billions of insect-sized machines filled the skies, each one containing a different human story. They didn't kill. They informed. They swarmed enemy ships and forced them to watch plays, feel heartbreak, hear poetry, taste defeat, to understand what they had tried to erase. On the flagship Star, with a General Harka screamed in his command chair as the archive swarm poured through his visor and forced him to relive the life of a human mother who watched her son board a doomed shuttle. Over and over again, until he wept. The Remember Us launched. It didn't fire conventional weapons. It fired grief. The first beam was encoded with the last transmissions of the old Earth Council, their surrender, their cries for help. The energy rippled through the fleet like fire, through dry grass. Enemy ships collided, their crew paralyzed by psychic feedback. The second beam pulsed raw emotion, desperation, hope, betrayal. Every non-human mind near the blast broke. Some screamed. Some tore off their own neural links. One ship self-destructed out of confusion, and then, from Earth's surface, a final signal launched. The scream, it wasn't just a sound, it was every death. Earth remembered, every child crushed under alien fire. Every soldier who died alone in the dark. Every scream, cry, whisper. Last breath condensed into a single planetary roar. It hit the fleet like a god's wrath. And when it ended, silence returned. Only wreckage remained. Rain stood alone on the command deck, his eyes locked on the black void where the fleet had once been. He didn't smile. He just whispered, "We warned you." Then turned to the crew. "Power down weapons. Bring the wounded home." In the days that followed, Earth didn't expand. It didn't demand tribute. It sent a message. "This is our planet. We don't want your war. But if you ever come back, we'll remind you again what extinction really feels like." And across the galaxy, no one dared respond. In a distant quadrant, a young alien child sat with their elder. "Is it true, what they say?" the child asked. "That the humans were gone?" The elder stared at the stars. "No, child. The humans just went quiet. But why are we still afraid?" The elder closed their eyes. "Because we know what happens when the ground starts screaming."